Hi everybody, welcome to the Hip Kit Club YouTube channel. This is Audrey Yeager, and today I am going to share a process video using the February kit and some cut files. So when I started to design my page, I am first going to open up my Silhouette software and Silhouette Design Studio, and I'm going to draw in some rectangles that are the size of my photos. So I already have my photos printed out, and I have 3 photos that are about 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares. And then I have another photo that's a rectangle that's about 2.5 by 3.25 inches. So I like to do this and design my page in Silhouette Studio so that when I'm using cut files, I can basically design the cut files to size so that I'm not surprised by the size of the cut files once I cut them out, surprised in relation to the size of my photos. So I kind of had a design in mind with how I was going to lay out my photos, and I put my rectangles there. Now I'm going to the Hip Kit Club store, and I am logged in, so you have to be logged in. I am choosing this cut file from July 2017, and you can see there's a download button right underneath the video there. And once it downloads, I am opening the file, and I click and drag to save the file to a special file that I have set up on my computer just for Hip Kit Club files. So this is a PNG file that I am using. So I'm just dragging the PNG to my Hip Kit Club file that I have created to store all of my Hip Kit Club cut files. Now I simply just drag the file right to my Silhouette software. You can also go to File and then Open once you're in Silhouette and open your file that way. So I'm going to put this on a separate design page. So I have my photograph rectangles on one design page. So you can see in the top left there I have Untitled 1 and Untitled 2. My Untitled 1 was where my rectangles were, and this is the cut file. I have traced the file, and now I'm going to separate out the pieces that I want. And I'm going to use most of these pieces. I really like these leaf branches, and I wasn't intending on using this title Wild and Free, but it's kind of cute and it goes with my photos, so I am going to use that as well. So now, once I've gotten those files and they're cut files and they've been traced, I'm going to drag them back over to my page where I had my rectangles and squares for my photos. And now I can place these cut files where I want them in relation to my photos. And this is just strictly for designing. So I'm not cutting it this way. All right, I'm just using it to design and show where I want my cut files to be laid out. So I'll copy and paste some of these leaves here if I want more of them. And I just do that by using a couple keyboard shortcuts, Control-C for copy and Control-V for paste. So that's why you don't see me actually going up to the top and going to, edit, copy, edit, paste. I'm using some keyboard shortcuts. So I'm placing these branches in here and there, kind of getting a feel for my page design. Again, copying and pasting branches that I want. And shrink down flowers if they're too big, or make things bigger if they're too small. And just kind of get a placement idea here. So once I've placed it all, then I actually go back and I delete my photos. I delete the rectangles, rather, that are my photos. And I delete those because I'm not going to cut those rectangles and squares out. I just have them there as placeholders to help guide my design. So I will delete those squares and the rectangles from my photo, and then I will start arranging the cut files on the mat how I want to have them cut out. So if I'm going to use different pieces of pattern paper, I might cut a 5-inch by 5-inch piece of pattern paper and have, a whole bunch of leaves cut out of that 5-inch by 5-inch pattern. And then another piece of pattern paper on the same mat, and I'm cutting, the different leaf shapes from a different pattern. So I'll have multiple pattern papers and one cut, if that's the look I'm going for. So I know that some of these leaves here, I'm going to be using some bright green cardstock. So I'm going to cluster those all over kind of to the right on the bottom, and I will put a big piece of bright green cardstock there. So I have cut them out, and you can see what I mean. I have lots of different pattern papers on here, and I've arranged my cut files in those spaces. So I cut the title out of black here. I'll gently pull that off. And when I cut, by the way, I use the setting for textured cardstock, which is heavier. And I set, well, depending on the paper, like pattern paper, I'll set my blade at a depth of 5. But if it's cardstock, like the green here, I'll set my blade depth at a depth of 6. And I'll just, so for this particular mat that's a mix of both cardstock and pattern paper, I'll just set it and leave it on 6. It might cut a little deeper than normal, but I would rather cut deeper into my mat than to not have a design cut completely out. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. I hate having a design that doesn't cut out all the way. It drives me crazy, especially if you could ruin a piece of pattern paper that way. So I always err on the side of cutting deeper rather than not cutting enough. So 6 might be a little deep, but you just have to play around with your machine and see what works for you. So because I have come up with the design mostly in Silhouette Studio, it's very easy to start putting my pieces right on. And I do change it. I don't always necessarily stick to the design that I have put in Silhouette Studio. And it just depends on, you know, the way the colors are looking together. Or maybe, you know, I just like the textures of something better. And so, you know, you play around with it, but doing it in Silhouette software definitely helps me get a better vision of what my final product is going to look like. So I've also cut out some of these flowers, some kind of orangey ones, I guess they're more coral color, and some pink ones, and scatter them around. And I'm going to fussy cut out some butterflies from this piece of pattern paper. By the way, our theme this week for Hip Kit Club is butterflies and blooms, so flowers and butterflies. So that's why I decided to use this particular pattern, because I have my flowers there, and of course my little butterflies. So I'm fussy cutting out one of these yellow butterflies, and I love how that looks. And then I remembered we also got these kind of three-dimensional layered pieces here. I believe those are from Maggie Holmes, and it also had a yellow butterfly in it. And I played around with going back and forth between the yellow butterfly and this navy butterfly. I put that blue banner tag down at the bottom right underneath my bottom photo, and it says beautiful day. And I was trying to find other elements that had that color blue in it, because I wanted to bring a little bit more of that blue into the page. So I do find, I think, a little heart. Yeah, that little heart I just put on there, and something else I found maybe another bug or something, just to bring in a little bit more blue. So what am I doing here? I'm not really sure. I'm cutting out something. What is it? Oh yeah, this is from one of the Project Life cards in the February kit, and I liked the little flower cluster. It had some yellow in it, and I felt like I needed another yellow element because I'm a big proponent of working in groups of 3 and having that visual triangle. So I'm having my 3 yellow elements here. And I had some other stuff from my stash I was playing around with, but I decided not to use it. So I just used that journaling card to balance out my yellow. And now I'm going through the pink paisley, the Paige Evans Pick Me Up die cut pack, and just going to add a couple other phrases. I felt like I needed something black down at the bottom right of my photos there because the title was black, and there's a lot of black in that top left cow picture. The cow itself has a lot of black in it, so putting that little black phrase down at the bottom I think helped balance out the black. And then just a couple other elements to bring in some more dimension and layers. I added some of those wood veneer brads, and I didn't know if I was going to add another like subtitle or something. I put that ampersand there. I just thought I would add a little bit more color, but I don't like it. I end up taking it off. The script of this cut title is so pretty, so I think putting that red ampersand there kind of ruined it. So I eventually take that off. So now that I have everything arranged how I want, I go back and I just add some glue, some liquid glue under everything. And when I do this, like nothing at this point is glued down except what I have just glued. So I always lay everything out first, and then I'll go back and add some glue afterwards just to make sure it's exactly how I want it. And for files like these leaves that have you know, little leaves at the end or something that you could fold up and add dimension, I don't necessarily glue it down flat. So I'll leave the tips of them kind of up in the air, or I might bend or fold them a little bit just to add a little bit of dimension instead of it being completely flat. And I love the layers of cardstock with pattern paper. I don't use cardstock very much, but I'm really glad I used this piece of green cardstock because I think that this green is so pretty in this photo. And it just picks up on the colors and makes it feel so springy, and just goes great with the butterflies and the flowers as well. So a lot of really pretty bright colors here. I had considered popping that title off the page with some pop dots, but decided it would be too much work to try to put tiny pieces of foam adhesive underneath it to pop it up. So I'm just going to skip that and glue it right to the page. Let's see, what am I doing now? Okay, I'm going back to add these flowers on, which I haven't glued down yet. And I felt like the centers of them were kind of empty. So I am going to go back and add some stuff to the centers of these flowers. So I do put a pop dot on them, and the pop dot is actually right in the middle of the circle on some of the smaller ones. So I definitely had to fill the centers of these flowers with something. But I liked popping them off because it gave them more dimension. And by putting dimension on these, I didn't feel so bad about not having the dimension on my title, because the dimension can be in the flowers there. So my next step was to add a few splatters, and this is a pinkish Dilutions, which came in a color kit. Did it come in this month? Yeah, it came in this month's color kit. So I just added a few splatters of that, and I liked the pink there. And then for the centers of my flowers, I went back to an older kit, and gosh, I can't remember what kit this is from. It's November, December, or January. So one of those recent kits, and there was a package of sequins in there. And I just pulled out a couple of the, they're kind of an orangey colored sequin, and then a couple of, there's wood grain ones and grayish silver sequins as well. I had considered putting those really dark blue ones on, but that totally threw off the soft color palette. So I'm going to stick with these yellowish orange ones. And I just went back and added my journaling, and I didn't even do any stitching on this page. And that's about it. So you can see all the layers here with there's that piece of that journaling card and some wood veneers, and look at those layers of cardstock and paper. I love that. And I love the texture on the cardstock. So I hope this helped you maybe think of some ways to use Silhouette Studio to help design your scrapbook pages. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks and have a great day.